Good morning,
Good
Sylvie.
morning.
Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
I will just call this a conversation with Sylvie Matz, so let's keep it totally informal, if you wish. I was very interested in your experience as a private citizen and as a character very present, a collaborator with a FEDORA platform, but also very active citizen in general. So I thought of a couple of questions regarding philanthropy in nowadays, so in 2020. And of course, since I am a representative of the opera education team, I would like to know some of your thoughts about our project Acquaprofonda.
Absolutely.
First, I'm gonna start with a very, very personal question, which is, what is your personal experience with art and performing arts?
Sure, it's a great question. I think I've been lucky as a child to have both an artistic education and a more traditional education. So I was a ballet student from the age of 5. And at a time we didn't have, special tailored program for schools. So I would actually go to each of the head of the schools and negotiate with them the ability I could have some flexibility in my calendar. So I could be at school in the morning and in the dance studio in the afternoon. So, so my experience is very much about growing up in the arts. And on a special note, my parents used to move every 2 years all across France. So it could be a bit disturbing as a child because you have to change schools, change friends. And for me, the dance studio was really home because that was, the ritual. It was the art that made me feel wherever I am, it's fine with me. I've got the piano, I've got, dance, and then I can be myself. And I don't need to, fight for attention or create new friends that are there. So for me, the studio is very important. And as I grew up, I was happy to actually discover new schools, always in France. And then at the age of 18, I started my business career, going to business schools, and then, going up very quickly into the corporate ladders and in big corporations, until I actually went back at the age of 45 to schools to work on psychology and work on coaching. And at that time, going back to school, suddenly two separate worlds for me, dance on one side and the arts and the business world, it just made sense to actually be the bridge between those two communities. So I was very happy to spend time with a major dance company in the UK to really investigate how they organize themselves, how they combine artistic creativity and the business constraints and challenges. So from there on, it felt that this shouldn't be separate worlds. It should be the ability to have a third space where you can actually create new experiences and being really a bridge between businesses and the art.
So basically, it was part of your life ever since.
Exactly.
And thanks to your very personal experience, you were able to combine the more artistic part with the more professional part, and you had a global understanding to help it grow further.
Yeah,
that's great. And do you have any personal experience with opera as well?
Yes, actually my parents lived in Vienna, in Austria, and that's where I actually experienced my first opera. And I think it's a beautiful, artistic experience because it's, first of all, it helps bringing wonderful stories on stage. It is amazing when you understand the craft that is needed to build an opera, and to put that on stage. I think is just amazing. There is so many different skills and competencies. I think it's a very complete, work to be done, and it's wonderful to see how many people and skills need to be put together. And I'm always fascinated in groups, how people collaborate. So I think opera is a bit of a laboratory to understand the collaboration. And of course, it's part of our European soul as well. So we tell stories, we hear stories. And what I find really interesting is 2 years ago with FEDORA, I brought my son, who's 10-year-old at that time, to his first opera, Don Giovanni, at La Fenice in Venice. And he loved it. So I think it's wonderful to have moments where you can bring children to continue, the family history. I mean, my mother brought me to the opera Garnier to see my first ballet when I was, 6 or 7 years old, and I got it. I understood what it is all about, and I think it's nice to have that feeling that you can actually open a door and live this wonderful experience.
So you do believe that children are able to understand and appreciate an opera and are able to behave going to a theater even from a younger age?
Oh, absolutely. I think it is, I think it's really important that every citizen can be in a theater. And I don't believe in the fact that you need to educate people to understand art. I think it is an experience, and therefore it is a very private way to like or not like. But I'm a mother of 3 boys, and I think it's really important that they have the opportunity to experience this form of art. Maybe they would prefer another form of art, but at least they go regularly, as they go to, walk in the park, go to the sea. That's part of the experience. What they do after that, that's their life. But I think on the contrary, I've been always amazed how children really discover and love these things. If you don't make it a big deal this way, it's not a big deal. It's part of, we're very lucky in Europe. We go to Italy, to France, to UK, to Spain. We have everywhere a place, outside or inside, where art can be presented, experienced. And I think that's what young citizens need to be exposed to. So it's not about education, it's being part of an exposure. Just go there, feel it, you like it or not like it. But at least you've seen and and it will maybe leave a seed that later on you can
will interiorize and understand.
So I think that's part of education.
Thank
exactly.
you.
Experience.
Going more in detail about our project Acquaprofonda.
Yeah.
What were your first thoughts, and why did you eventually decide to support it as a private patron?
Sure. First of all, I think the project is really important because it touched about our relationship to the world and the fact that children can be, immersed in a project that really matters for their surroundings, for Earth, for their responsibility on Earth. So I think that really touched me. I like the visuals of the project. I like the story. And of course, you were one of many other projects. So I was lucky to participate to the online workshop with FEDORA. So, and I saw, and that's what I like actually in supporting projects. It goes beyond the performance, but before that, there is a team, there's an energy, and there's a process or journey to go to, you know, performance or building a community. And I was very touched by your energy, your willingness to learn, to be part of the wider community of FEDORA. So that's, you know, what sticks to my mind. And it was interesting because we had our online chat probably end of June,
Yes.
if I recall correctly. And then I had, you know, the summer break. So when I went back in September, I went back to my, you know, little home office, and I felt, what are the projects that still stay on my mind? And there were two, your project and Monkey Nation on the digital project, which is also about,
Yes.
you know, children, yeah, the environment, and the push for responsibility and not passivity.
And also maybe another common thread is putting the action in the children's hands. So
Exactly.
they are citizens and they are able to take responsibility and take action.
Absolutely.
They don't need to wait.
Absolutely. And what I like about the project and your project, as I understand it today, it goes beyond just having a performance, which is of course very important. But I think it has different steps in the journey that will involve children in the community to be a bit more patient whilst, you know, waiting for the stage to reopen. And I think that's wonderful. And children, and I can see that with my own children, they can be wonderful advocates when they believe in. So they change, actually, also. They have power and a voice in families, with their friends, in their small community. And I think that's, as you said, that's part of being a responsible, but also an active citizen. And you can do that from the age of 5.
Yeah, they're very passionate and driven. And what we can do to help them is empower them and make them feel that they are part of the community already. Yeah. And they should feel free to go to the theater as well as take action.
Exactly.
But ultimately, in your experience, what does it mean to be a philanthropist? What is philanthropy in 2020?
Sure. For me, it is a possibility to give back to the community and to care about the community. So let me give you just an anecdote, because my eyes opened in the 90s when I was living in the UK, living and working in the UK. And I was promoted in my job at General Electric, a big company. And I was responsible for strategy and communication of the European team. So I was meeting every single person in the team. And in the UK, I was meeting my corporate communication team. And one of my teammates, Marnie, told me, well, here's what I do, and I spend 50% of my time on communication. So I smiled and said, so what's the other half? And she said, I actually do community work. I said, oh, okay, tell me what it is. And she told me that she was involved in the community our headquarters was based. So we were based near the Heathrow Airport. And most of us in the headquarters, about 200 people, would only commute either from, you know, European cities where we had to work, or from home outside of this area. And she said, well, there are people who live. There are hospitals, there are schools, and therefore she made the connection with the head of the school, the head of the hospital. And one of the discussion she had with the head of school was the problem that the children were not showing up at school. So for the head of the school, that was a big problem. And the big problem was because of unemployment. So the parents wouldn't actually wake up and the children would not go to school at the right time. So what she did was a very simple, very simple program where each day, if you show up on time, every single morning, at the end of the week, you would receive a pen as a student. And Marnie told me that actually the pen they would receive were GE pen, you know, with our label. And I say, okay, so what do you need more? I said, well, I need more stationery. I said, well, okay, but that's very easy. And I'm giving you this long anecdote because for me, my eyes open that you can change people's lives with very simple resources that would actually not be a big deal for you, but it would matter a lot in the hands of the people who were trying just to do their mission, having children at school. And so I for the people who would come at lunchtime from my office, and I didn't know that because I was joining the office, who would come at lunchtime to help children reading. So then again, you know, you could either go on the park or you have, you know, a big lunch with colleagues. Some people would actually just take a sandwich, go to the school and help children reading. So suddenly I felt all these little initiatives, you know, need to actually be heard in our business community. So I asked Marnie to, you know, to come to the executive board and make a presentation. And at the end of the presentation, we discussed as the executive team, so what can we do? And we made this, back in the 90s, very simple, very simple organization, saying that if people every month on Friday afternoon wanted to actually be involved in a community project, they could. So they could leave, you know, at 1 in the afternoon and spend their Friday afternoon every month on the project. So when you believe, you know, the power of a business, just opening their eyes on what is going around and not only commuting, yeah. Understanding that what matters is people's time, and having that as an initiative at a time where corporate and social responsibility were not on the corporate agenda. So, you know, it's a long story, but these are very simple steps. And for me, philanthropy today is still the same. It's if you open your eyes around you and you will actually start conversation with people. You can understand, you know, sometimes that they just need an ear and want to have, you know, the discussion. And if you have time and if you bring some resources, then you can actually be part of a community rather than just being a consumer or a supplier in a region. And for me, this is what it is. It's making the connections, and it's not about, you know, lots of money. I mean, some people do that very well, but I think every single citizen can just be in a relationship beyond the task, beyond the consumption, but just be with people and see what matters for them, and ultimately for ourselves.
So basically, the difference between doing and not doing is just do it.
Yeah, I think it's about
bring people
being
together.
In the world. Yeah, it's being in the world and being open to people around you. What's their story? And I think
some time
that's
to
what
listen.
is wonderful today with technology, when you think about it. Because people who have access to technology can actually, you know, there are more and more platforms to talk about those good initiatives. And I think, you know, this is the media of the people, more than, you know, news, for example. And I think this is fantastic, that there are means of technology today that can help, you know, with simple websites, with platforms, with Zoom discussion as we have for example, just being, you know, together and talk about what they do and what we each can at least be aware, because I think awareness
Get
is
informed.
Exactly. And then inform, and then make our own judgment whether we participate. So as a, you know, as a philanthropist, I think it's people who is aware, is a person who is aware today and is willing to listen and participate when and where it matters for them and for everybody.
So given that it's easier today to be informed, to be to know what's around, what's happening outside our house. Also, after this months of strange experience we lived locked in our houses, we went online and we were hyper informed about everything that was going on in the world. As a private citizen, how and why do you think it is important to support, let's talk about just performing arts, as a private citizen? Why it is important to do our own small action, to give our small time, our small resource?
I think it's really a personal ethics in terms of you know, who are you in this world for? And I think for me, there's a beautiful sentence from a management scholar whose name is Richard Boyatzis, and he says, the only legacy we have is the people we have touched. And I think that for me, there's no better mean to be touched than art and performing arts, because we actually experience, whether at a distance or best, you know, together outside or in a theater, we experience our own humanity. So I think this is very important to understand that if we connect with our own humanity and if we see the creativity of people, we actually are changed by that experience and by that openness. And I think this is what matters. So it's about, again, it's about being aware and being willing to open and be changed, and experience probably uncomfortable zones sometimes, but that will change it. So for me, it's really about being able to risk a bit our own certainties, to be, you know, to be touched, and but also when it resonates with us, it's finding a place, finding you know, a community of people, a relationship that matters, and I think that's really what I like. Does that touch me or not?
Thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to our conversation that we haven't touched in our questions?
I think, you know, for me, what I like the most, if I look at my years of, you know, of engagement in community services or volunteering, is that today it is about the connection and therefore the ability to share our networks. So what I would encourage people is that we all know people who know and who knows people who actually can have an interest in what you do, in what I do, in what we care for. And therefore, you know, again, it goes beyond money. Of course, money is, you know, can be very important in terms of financing and bringing the sustainability of projects and initiatives. But I really believe in the power of connection, and I urge people to open up their contacts and networks, or spend time just, you know, voicing about what project really gave them energy, or what they really like this week or this year. So people know, and people can share actually connection. And in this connection, with our brain, then we create some formula for success.
Basically, it's the fundamentals of social networks as well.
Exactly.
Like, share, repost, exactly. Inform, share with your friends, and talk about it if you love it.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, Sylvie, for your time.
You're welcome.
For sharing your personal experience, which was very interesting to get to know. And I hope who listens to us will open its mind and get passionate about, oh, yes, I do love this as well. I should do something. Let's hope.
Exactly. I do already, and I want to let people know.
I want other people, yes. I do think that a lot of people already do, but maybe they don't believe in telling about the good they do because they don't want to brag about it. But the power of sharing is that you should say the good you do so that other people maybe can feel inspired by you. And that's what I wanted to do with you today. So thank you very, very much. And
thanks for having me.
I wish you a lovely day, and please share please share with your contacts, okay?
Will do, Roberta. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.